Barbara Bach was born on the 7th of August 1947 in a place called Rosedale, Queens, and she grew up in Jackson Heights, somewhere in New York. Her dad was the bit of the old Bill, he was a policeman, an Austrian Jewish policeman, so not a guy to be tend to mess with. And her mum, well, she was a Catholic, so sending little Barbara Bach to the Catholic school. Yeah, and her mum might be Romanian as well, making her more exotic, like a European girl instead of a New York girl. What went to a Dominican school of high school girls, Catholic school. She was the captain of their basketball team. And then obviously she left in 1964 and started her career being a model, obviously. A very popular model, a fashion model for the Eileen Ford famous magazine. She had their high cheekbones, a long neck, and them little big eyes. That's what Eileen Ford wanted to lack for certain models, and she was that popular at the age of 17 back in 1965, and she was all over the magazines and all that, front pages and all that. Look, very popular she was, but it wasn't enough for her. She might have appeared in magazines like 17 and Vogue, but between 1965 and 1966. But later on she went over to Italy, right, and then she met a businessman, Augusto Magarini. It sounds like Lamborghini. No, don't think of that. No, it's different. Anyhow, at the age of 19 she married the guy and changed her name to Barbara Magarini, and then ended up having 2 children with him, a boy and a girl. But that didn't stop. Her career just boomed into more modelling in Italy to television. And then a director, Franco Rossi, came on the scene and got Barbara to do loads of films, well, Italian films. The lady dedicated herself to actually speak Italian, and not even that, she even starred in a French film, and we all know she starred in a British film, don't we? It's all building up to that, obviously. But there was one little wee problem, that her success and her husband was a bit of a private man, her husband, and he couldn't really, he wasn't really into all this fame, and he was a different chalk and cheese, as you say. But they always say opposites attract, don't they? But for her husband to live in her limelight, especially with all the magazines she did, yes, she did pose for the famous one, in America, yes, she did as well. But that was the perks back in the days. Obviously, it was the 70s, typical stereotype back then. Obviously, you got them Italian magazines, a Gioia, a Mega, and a Bella, making Barbara more a popular demand doing all these magazines. But she was even having more, where it came that people what demanded more were doing movies as well, and she did it. Not even that, she was doing these movies, she had 2 kids as well. But it put strain on their marriage, and the couple, they decided to give it the end and divorce. They departed, like friends, so it wasn't a messy affair. But good on them that Barbara carried on with this career. And everybody might criticise that she did a lot of B movies, but, somebody's got to start from somewhere, don't they? Like me, I should have mentioned that her daughter's name was called Francesca, and she's got a son, Gianni Janier. I hope I got his name right. I think I have. Well, I'm hoping I got his name right. I mean, the poor lad later on had a major operation, but it was successful, and he was fine. But that put more strain on their marriage, and I'm afraid back in 1975 they decided to call it quits. But it took them 2 years, up to 1978, where they got finally divorced. Barbara, well, she left Rome and moved back to the States, in LA, California near enough, I think. Yeah, I think she did. Well, that's when she did a couple of other movies there, low-key movies. I think you can watch them on YouTube, actually. Yeah, I think you can. So, she got this big major part what came up. Yeah, the one and only Charlie's Angels. Yes, back in 1979. Kate Jackson, what played Tiffany Wells, was leaving the show. Maybe she was auditioning for Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Got proud of that. Yeah, well, I enjoyed it, watching it. So, never mind that. I mean, the poor dear Barbara Bach was in the papers saying that she's actually got the part, but there was some weird reason that she didn't get the part because she looked like Jacqueline Smith. I mean, look at that. She does not like her. It's like Cameron Diaz. I mean, does she look... Well, yeah. She could have been disappointed, but she moved on and did this comedy film, The Caveman. And that film, well, that turned her future into something different. Yeah, she got a new husband. Yeah, a real famous husband. We all know him as the one and only Thomas the Tank Engine. Well, I knew him as doing the voiceover for the 80s Thomas the Tank Engine. The time where it was done by an electric train set, not CGI then. Alright? And Ringo Starr, right, is a formal Beatle. And what I mean by that, the Beatles, their 60s band. And he was a drummer, right? Now, he was married to a lady called Margaret Cox, but sadly, she died from a bone marrow transfusion, what she was getting from her son, Zach. Yeah, Ringo and her had 3 children together. When they got married back in 1965, and then later on they did get divorced, but then they got remarried. But back in 1996, sadly, she did pass away from the complications from the bone marrow treatment. So yeah, Ringo later on still did films, as we all know. That's where he met Barbara when they did the film The Caveman, and they've been together since then. I mean, it's obviously they've got something in common. Then both of them know about submarines. Yeah, that one with the famous submarine car. Yeah, The Spy Who Loves Me. Yeah, the most popular Bond movie back in the time, where Harry Saltzman actually departed from Bond because he was in so much debt that he actually had to sell half his stocks back to Kevin Broccoli. I mean, that was Kevin Broccoli had to do this film actually all solo, and if it wasn't a successful movie, the Bond franchise could have died out. But I think what really got this movie actually more iconic is, yeah, the most famous motor car in the 70s, I would say, the famous Bond motor is the Lotus, obviously, especially with this sneaky surprise where it turns into submarine. I mean, my personal opinion, thinking that the gadget car re-releasing that made the film popular, or it could have been, the god-lacking Barbara Bach playing Anna Sylvia, or I should say Triple X. Yeah, not that one. I don't know why people get confused with Triple X. Well, I'm bleeding sorry. Yeah, that's another thing what reminds me of. Yeah, people getting confused with Richard Keel's part as Jaws. Yeah, because everyone thinks of Steven Spielberg. Alright, Steven Spielberg did get offered maybe to direct this movie, but that didn't happen. But yeah, people still get confused with that. You know, it's alright, play the cartoon character. But another thing about Richard Keel, he did do another few films with Barbara Bach as well. And with Lewis Gilbert directing it this time. I mean, he directed You Only Live Twice, but seems very familiar with the story wise, with spaceships eating other spaceships when you got oil tankers eating submarines. Yeah, that's in this movie. And it's the first time you actually see James Bond in the beginning titles as well. But nobody does it better than our little gorgeous Barbara Bach. And what a performance she did. Brilliant.